Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Joy.
My name is Joey Cole. It's my pleasure to be your service leader this morning. We start, as we do most mornings, most Sunday mornings, with our committee moments. And Ann Packham has kindly consented to be the moderator for that. Ann?
Thanks, Joey. Yeah, so before we get into the meat of the service, we'd like to give our committees an opportunity to give any updates that they have that might be pertinent to our community. I will just say, to begin with, the chairs of the committees, which is called our council, we have a meeting tomorrow virtually at 5. So if you've forgotten about it, I'm going to send out an email to remind you. So that's just a little piece of business. I see that Chloe McElroy has her hand up. So Chloe, go ahead.
It looks like it's me and my father, but I'll go first. We have Millennial Group in person on the 8th of April at 6:30. Please make sure you're wearing your mask. Millennial Plus is open anyone 21 and up that identifies in the millennial range. Please feel free to break. Mom, can you stop singing for a second? Mom, 1 second. Sorry, my mom's practicing for my sister's wedding. But we are having Millennial Group, 6:30, Thursday, April 8th. I'll mention it again next Sunday, but I just wanted to get it stirring in people's heads. On to my father.
Hello, men's group is the 29th, which is tomorrow, at 7 o'clock. It's a Zoom, so we'd love to have you there if you can come. And, you know, men that talk about men.
Thank you, McElroy's. I see Crystal, you have your hand up. Can you go unmute yourself? Thank you.
Since we're all about support groups, we do have parent support group tonight at 9 p.m. Via Zoom. As we do every week, anyone is welcome, whether they have their own biological children or simply identify as somebody who cares for somebody else. We always have a good time, so hope to see you all there.
Additional, Judith, I think I see you raising your hand.
Yep. Good morning. Religious education. This morning in the classroom at noon, or this afternoon in the classroom at noon, we have guests from the Friends Society, otherwise known to most of you as Quakers, visiting the RE classroom. So if you'd like to attend, check the, send me an email and I'll send you the link, or check the RE news from last week. And that the link is there, and that's at noon. And then next week, for parents who want to bring their kids, we have Easter Sunday on the property at 9:30 in the morning next week. And we will be doing carefully socially distanced, organized dragon egg hunt and the egg drop. And so I hope the kids and families can come. And then I'll also have a computer on with the service, because we have an Easter service as well. So there we go.
Thank you, Judy. A lot going on there. Yay. Other committee chairs. I'm looking. Oh, I see Marianne Feldheim from the Social Action Committee.
Yes, good morning. Social Action Committee has a meeting actually at 11:55 this morning. The link is in the notable news. The notable news said 11:30, but we need to give time for people to have a little break. So it's 11:55. We'd love to have you join us. And at that point, we're going to be talking about some critical issues that are going on in the legislature that we will be sharing with you next time. And we're also going to be talking about some things that issues that we would address, the racial violence against Asian Americans. So please join us. I will put the link in the chat. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other physical or virtual hands. I'm just scanning through the pages here, but.
Kelly.
Oh, I see Kelly now. Okay, sorry, Kelly, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I really would like to make an announcement on behalf of the board and the nominating committee. I just wanted to make everybody aware that there was an email that went out this past week looking for anyone interested in a leadership role within our congregation. We're looking for someone that could possibly participate in the nominating committee. So there was an exclusive email that went out for leadership within our congregation. And if you're interested, please reply to that email or to Ann Packham or Martha Kirby. Thank you.
Thanks for the reminder, Kelly. Yeah, so just to follow up on that, you may not be ready to step up to a leadership position, but we would like to have people on the nominating committee. Per our bylaws, the board is supposed to nominate the nominating committee, at the annual meeting, which would have happened last May, but with everything going on and COVID and, everything going on, that didn't happen. So if you would like to be on the nominating committee, this description is in the notable news, which basically is reaching out to your fellow congregants to see who would like to serve. We have a trustee position opening up, and we also have the endowment committee that we're looking for a new chair and also members. So please step up to the plate. We need fresh ideas and fresh faces. And that's it. Any other committee people? I don't see anybody. So speak now, forever hold your peace. I think it's back to you, Joey.
Okay, part of the, not quite part of committee moments, but we have something special planned for Time for All Ages this morning. So sometime before now and that part of the service, you are asked to get a glass of water in order to participate. Let me see. Judith has said that it would be a good time. That's also, this would be a good time to get your chalice if you're going to light your own personal chalice when we light ours. I'd also like to welcome our speaker, Dr. Santana, who made it back. I understand you had a bit of a trek this morning, so thank you so much for the extra effort and for getting here. We are all feeling very relieved that we don't have to fill in. Thank you so much. Okay, my opening words this morning. I chose my opening words with a dual purpose. Since Triple U's board, as Ann just said, has put out the call for new leadership and our elections are coming up, I know that as soon as I said that, probably some of you are pushing the button to get off video because you don't want to be there. But in this last Sunday of Women's History Month, I went to the words of a woman I admire more than I can say, Stacey Abrams, who tells us, quote, "We have the power to redraw the image of leadership so that we can all see ourselves reflected in its face." End quote. Okay, our opening music this morning is a familiar song, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. It was originally composed by Joyce Poley and performed by the First UU Society of San Francisco.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from
That was lovely. Thank you. Although the captioning is pretty cute because I saw Amazing Race a couple of times. I thought that was kind of funny. Okay. The flaming chalice is our symbol of Unitarian Universalism. So it is our tradition to begin our gatherings by lighting the chalice and reciting the words that you will see on the screen. If you have your own chalice, I invite you to get it now so that we can light it together. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. Put that up there. Okay. Also, it is our tradition to affirm our community and our commitment to each other by reciting these words on the screen. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, and to help one another. Now, I'd like to welcome everyone. I don't know for sure if we have any guests that I might not know, but if you are new to us, you are most welcome in our community. We are a lay-led congregation, and our services vary from week to week. We look forward to the future when we can be together again in person at our church, but we are grateful to have this platform that allows us to connect even if it is not in person. But however we gather, please know that you are welcome. We say it often, but it bears repeating. We welcome people from all walks of life, from all religious histories, from all races, from all sexual orientation. You are welcome here. Well, it's that time of the service when we welcome our RE director, Judith Stein-Farrell, who has planned for us. I hope you've gone to get your water. If you haven't, go quick because it's about to start. She's told me that this was a slightly interactive event planned for today, having to do with Passover. So Judith, take it away.
What an introduction. So this morning, yes, if you've got a glass of water, bring it to the screen. If you don't, that's all right. You can do it symbolically. Just have it handy. I'm reading this Time for All Ages today. The words, except for the very end, are all those written by Evelyn Shalon. If she had trusted her internet connection a little better, she would have read it. But let's hope mine, I've got two computers here just in case mine decides to go wonky on me. This week, here we go, ready? This week is a tremendous compilation of many notable historical events recorded in ancient writings. We are ending Women's History Month. As of yesterday, the week's celebration of Passover in the Jewish tradition began. And today we start Holy Week, leading to Easter in the Christian tradition. Spring is a wonderful time for all to enjoy and is especially observed by the Wiccans and the pagans. Today's speaker, Dr. Santana, is a professor of women and gender studies and will be speaking on that subject. So this morning, we want to embrace one of several rather neglected women, some nestled in the Bible. Many of us know that the Bible has two books, so-called the Old Testament and the New Testament. The original Old Testament, the first 5 books of the Bible, make up the Torah in the Jewish faith. Many have read much of both, but many don't know that the Christian embracing of the 10 Commandments stems from the original commands allegedly given to Moses while the Jews were wandering as homeless refugees in the desert. It is proclaimed by the Jewish faith that many more than 10 were presented. The story goes that the Jews were slaves to Pharaoh, but had been freed after the Lord they worshiped had sent plagues to force him to allow them to leave. The plague involved the death of the non-Jews' firstborn sons. Pharaoh previously had had male Jewish babies killed to prevent one of them from becoming powerful enough to overthrow him. Ha, see what happens? That's not Evelyn, that's me. A sign of sheep's blood on Jewish homes meant the plague would pass over that home, thus the name. Once again, my questioning is how come the slaves allegedly had homes? My idea regarding this was that they had to at least be group dwellings. Slaves did not have homes. So how did the Jews survive for 40 years wandering homeless in the desert? Clearly, dehydration, starvation, and death took place. But who helped the survivors? Moses had enough hard time politically, holding the group together as they were often unruly, complaining, and wanting to oust him from leadership. Then he went off to consult with the Lord and did nothing about leaving them with food and water. So once again, knowing their skills, the Lord designated a woman to pull them through. Her name was Miriam, and she was the older sister of Moses. Back when Moses' mother put him in a basket and floated it down the Nile in order to save him, she sent Miriam to hide and watch that he was rescued. And he was by Pharaoh's daughter, whose name does not exist in the scripture. Again, a mere woman, but a wife of Pharaoh has no need for a name. When writing of her, a different name is supplied often by whichever religion is claiming her at that time. Moses taught the men in the Torah, but since the custom was not to teach women, it was Miriam who taught the women. She also led them in survival skills. She is designated as a prophetess by the Lord and as such provided water to the multitudes. Although Moses, with his Lord, is given credit for bringing water forth from a rock, it was called Miriam's well. The water seemed to always be available when she was present. It is written that it went dry when she died, and people were dry. Miriam has been revered largely in the Jewish Seder, where the water placed on the Seder table has been in her name. It is written that the Lord stated that he has given the guidance of the Jews to three, not just Moses. The three are Moses, Miriam, and the other brother, Aaron. Added by me here. As Evelyn's words reminded us, Miriam, the sister, the woman in the room, was one always present, always creating a source of help. The cup of water at the Seder, on the Seder table in modern times is referred to as Miriam's cup. According to the Haggadah version called Oranges and Olives, Miriam's cup reminds us we are to be kind and thoughtful to the people around us. It also reminds us that life tends to work out in miraculous ways when we are doing what we think is the right thing. Please lift up your cups. Let us drink from a glass of water to honor Miriam's compassion for doing what we know is right. Thank you.
That was wonderful. I wasn't sure where you were going. That was fantastic. I loved it. Thank you. Okay, and now we will have our interlude and offering. During the interlude, you will have the opportunity to make a donation. You can do that online at our website, or you can mail in a check. Donations and pledges can be made at the website and by mail. Of course, you may make a donation anytime, even after the service is over. This week's Share the Plate recipient is the Christian Service Center, a downtown group which, in addition to serving daily meals, also provides clothing, a place to shower, and a place to wash clothes to the Orlando homeless population. Some of us recently volunteered there as part of the Social Action Committee's focus on homelessness, and we saw firsthand the important work that they are doing for these folks in need. So let's think about how deep we can dig to help out this this particular group and also how we can continue to support our congregation. Thank you. For our presentation this morning, we are most fortunate to have with us today Dr. Maria Cristina Santana. Dr. Santana is an associate professor and the director of Women's and Gender Studies program at the College of Arts and Humanities at UCF and has been so since 2009. She is also an activist with the Farm Workers Association of Florida, Planned Parenthood, Equality Florida, Girl Scouts of Citrus Council, and the Peace and Justice Institute at Valencia. I am selfishly going to stop right there because I could go on and on about her awards and accomplishments, but I would rather use the time to hear what she has to say to us this morning. So speaking to us about women's history and why it matters, please join me in welcoming Dr. Maria Santana. Dr. Santana?
Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be with all of you. I do feel the love. Thank you. It is important to me as well. I have written some words for you this morning, but I also would like you to feel free to ask me questions at the end, because obviously in about a few minutes, we cannot give justice to women's history. Just to tell you that I tell my students, women's history should be every day. Women are like water. We need them. We know them. We depend on them. We're birthed by them. So for me, it should be every day. I have titled my presentation to you today, Renew, Rediscover, Rebound, Resist. These are words that I use in my classes. And then my students at first are like, who is this crazy lady? But at the end of the semester, they understand when I say, remember, resist. And they were like, yeah, we get it. So let's get started. I'm going to start with renew. The turn of the 19th century offered women education and work, not by becoming doctors, but by being able to read and write. Let me tell you right now that poor women have always worked. Poor women had no choice. Poor women became domestic help to keep food in the table, and single poor women lived in tenement housing to send money back home and to dream out of that place by either marriage or better luck. But luck had nothing to do with it. Poverty is an equalizing force for all women, not allowing them to promote or to change areas of employment. Does this sound familiar? Some of that work was considered gendered. Take, for example, being an assistant or a secretary. Only men needed to apply. We now can think of a row of men taking notes and assisting the boss because we now see it as a woman's job. The same job in many other professions, such as teaching. So far, after a job is genderalized, for women, the job pays less. When the job becomes a men's market, it becomes better pay. Do you follow me? This renewal time was very promising, but disappointment followed. Urban centers like New York City became pools of disease and unrest. Unions were formed, but not for women. And when women formed their own unions in 1890, 1902, and 1903, it made more states reconsider protecting the labor force by saying women should not apply to those jobs. When married, women lived with families as domestic. Women adventured to the West Territories as a single woman or sometimes as a future wife or bride. None of it was free of choice, not free of pain. Women tried and tried to better themselves by many means. Once they had a family, they also wanted their children to prosper. Those living in poverty took huge steps towards success, while others have to wait 2 or 3 generations later to go to college and decide on careers free of other pressures like supporting a family. Our next word is rediscover. And in times of war, which is, by the way, one of my research interests, women were rediscovered. Research deals with women in war and women in crisis. The image of Rosie the Riveter, a creation by American artist J. Howard Miller in 1942, it was titled We Can Do It and had no association with anyone called Rosie. It is believed that this initial drawing was part of Westinghouse Electric Corporation wartime production campaign to recruit female workers. The war machine allowed women to follow opportunities of high pay jobs. Even married women waiting for their partners to return from the war took on the opportunity to work in a new field and learn skills never available to them. A riveter does the actual building of a plane, making sure the metal plates are secure. Women change the field. Shoes with metal toes, for example, were created for women, preventing them from suffering burns and disintegrating shoes not appropriate for torching. It is funny to think that overalls on women became a way of allowing them to wear pants at work. Now, once you wear pants, the skirt takes a second place. Pants are more comfortable to bend and work long hours and require no petticoat, but still lipstick. Let me tell you that Revlon gave classes at Boeing to better the femininity of women in overalls. You might laugh right now. However, women remain mothers, girlfriends, and friends in need of a family, a husband. Thus, their liberation was temporary, and so was their empowerment. Or was it? When you think that up to 4 million women work in the war machine, and once the war ended, and many of their jobs ended too, where did the 4 million women go? Not all went home. Many kept good paying jobs, but not as high as before. Men were preferred once again, and white men had the privilege of returning home as heroes with a GI Bill, providing them new homes for their white families, not so much for Black or Latino GIs. My next word is rebound. A rebound era started with a massive manipulative campaign to keep women at home as homemakers. GE, Westinghouse, Electrolux, Tupperware made shiny plastics and objects, and women were portrayed hugging refrigerators and vacuuming full of joy. Not last time I checked, I don't vacuum full of joy. The overall feeling of serving your country turned into serving your family and keeping home. And many families follow this pattern, keeping women at home and out of the workforce. How could women retire? How could they save? How could they have their own banking account? It took up to 1972 to have a woman by herself to have her own bank account and her own credit cards. If they did not work, who was going to support them in old age? Perhaps a partner, but disease also can bring death and take away that security. Once again, women were left to survive by the charity of family and friends or to continue working. But do not be fooled. We continue to have women rejoining the workforce after the age of 60, working at Publix and at McDonald's. Pay attention and look at them. No, they're not bored at home. They need to work to support themselves. While women benefit for having a parent at home and husbands enjoy working late and not worrying about what food or shopping needed to be done, women paid in poverty at older age. The next word is resist. As individuals represent as women, the 1960s in this country meant a way to redefine and resist the status quo. The role of women had the most important challenge in the 20th century. What is to be a woman? How should we behave? Where should we be liberated? Who is in charge of them? The women's movement, although not perfect, did have a tremendous influence in our history by creating policy and laws that ensured that freedom given to others would also affect women. Women discovered their bodies, their sexuality, and the freedom to represent themselves as they wished to. It was a couple of decades of change, and many did not receive the good news well. I often talk to people in their 20s back in the 1960s, and their conversation feels like 2021. How can this be after policy and bills protecting women against sexual harassment, violence, and also discrimination in the workforce? We have been resistant ever since, trying to hold the wave against us, against measuring our abilities, skills, paying us less, telling us who to marry, when to have children, and how to age. We still have a pay gap, and the House and Senate took a new step closer to ratifying the Equal Rights Amendment for 70 cents for the white woman, 64 cents for the Black woman, and 54 cents for Latinas like me. I have to wait until October of each year to make one whole dollar out of the salary of a white male. So in my case, I have to wait. Remember that when people celebrate April as Equal Pay Month, they're not celebrating me, but white women. How can we defend women when in our own legislature, we still contemplate how to change our right to defend how we use our body? Just a week ago, I have a student crying on Zoom, telling me that her mom was manipulated to sign a release to tie her tubes when all she had was endometriosis. Her daughter caught it in time. Her mom was recently remarried and wanted to have a child with her new partner. Imagine the consequences. Was it because she was a Black woman over 40? Or is it because she came by herself? Or is it because she has a Jamaican accent? When we think about it all, it looks and feels very strong and wrong. My students told me that she remembered the word resist. I usually finish class with, she resisted, and so did her mother. Thank you very much. Questions, please.
Wow, that was amazing. I'm happy to call on folks for questions. I don't see any hands raised. I had a question. I had sent it to Martha earlier about what is the best way to make sure that women's stories are part of the history. Is it to have a separate class or to include within a general history class the role of women?
Women need to be included in everything. They need to be included in elementary books, secondary books, college grad. I mean, my class right now is called Women, Race, and Struggle. And I have a class full of white women. And they're there knowing that we will be discussing race. And they're there because they want it. They wanted to have that conversation. And it is uncomfortable at times. And I understand that. But they say to me again and again and again, and I don't think they're just trying to be nice to me, is that they've never heard of this woman that we're studying, that they never heard of any of this. They've never heard of lynching laws. They've never heard of Jim Crow. They've never heard that there were a Harlem Renaissance, and there were women that were artists and singers and sculptors, and they were Black or Latino, that Latino founded unions for farm workers. They, nothing. And I am not that extraordinary. I'm just telling you that this is so needed that I have started the process of including some of our courses as general ed education at UCF. It is a process that takes a long time, but it's worth it because I think, I mean, I have right now first year students. So I can tell you that this will shape the rest of their experience at UCF instead of waiting until the end to, oh, women and gender studies. It's not that they have to have a minor with us. It's that each class that educates you, you cannot uneducate yourself ever, ever. So once you know, I had a student once crying in the back of the room, and it was a male. And I'm thinking, oh, what have I done? He's crying. He's obviously crying. So at the end, everybody cleared the room and he came forward and he was still crying. And we were talking about domestic violence. And he said, Dr. Santana, I'm just thinking of my mom who put up with so many years of beatings and abuse and alcoholism. And I just couldn't do much because I was a child. So, it is so moving to see this pain so fresh in this young man's heart as it happened yesterday. So the content, like I said, once you know it, once you know data and the numbers, you go out. No way. You change. You have to be more inclusive. That's the only way. And include everybody. So
Okay, I see Evelyn has her hand up.
Yeah, I too had put in a question with Martha before regarding when women got the vote, they basically didn't treat the women of color very well at all. They simply said, well, no, we're fighting for our rights now. Yours is separate, and that'll have to be another condition, which was very unfortunate, women against women in that direction. And I'm wondering if that has continued. And I think what Dr. Santana just said is many of the white women in her class, and I took a course in women's history way back in the early 80s, that these women have not heard of all of the obstacles that women of color had to put up with all of these years. And I keep wondering, when you have done so much studying, obviously in so many areas, do you see that history has changed? I see that we keep, say, taking 3 steps forward and 2 steps backward again in all of this period of time, because when we discuss the harassment and the ERA and so forth right now, it's why is it taking so long, and why do women who are white not have knowledge as to what women of color and people of color in general have had to put up with all these years?
thank you so much, Evelyn. Actually, we don't know about any women, not even white women. We know very little about any women, but women of color, much less, as not a participant of our history at all. When we talk about lynching in my class, and we talk about women hanging from a tree, and they realize it's a woman because she has a long dress, they're completely, honestly surprised. I think that once they understand that the process that took place depended on wealthy women that were educated, that could take on the work of the suffragists. It's not a coincidence. I mean, you have to have a sponsor. You have to have a husband that allows you to be doing these things. Otherwise, you were working in the factory. So there was a large segment of women workers, women worked in factories that worked also for the 19th Amendment, but we don't hear about them because we don't see them in the front run. And yes, there was racism. There was women pushed in the back of the row because they were Black. And many women organized in Black groups throughout the history of the 20th century. And you will see that some of them were quite successful. Others were more individualized concerns, but there was still that effort to continue to work for women. My students, when I ask them, do you believe in the word feminism? What does it say to you? And they are so inclusive that they say that is a term still associated with women. What if you are a person that is non-conforming? What if you're not binary? What if you're a male? Then you can be a feminist. So of course I have a quote right there. And I said, Bell Hooks, who is one of my favorite authors, says, feminism is for everyone. And when they asked me, why are you a feminist? And I said, because we don't get paid the same, because we have to come home for a second shift, because people are still harassing me about my accent, of my stature, even though I have the highest degree in academia. So once all of these things are equal, then I'll sit down and I will be quiet. But I don't see them. I don't see them being equal.
It's
Judith?
very sad.
So Dr. Santana, you mentioned the pay disparity between women and men and BIPOC women and men as well. While I think many in a Unitarian Universalist room have a sense of what that is, can you give a bigger explanation of what that means?
It means that unfortunately, when women negotiate the first pay, which is very important, that's why we do trainings for our young students. That first professional job, once they're finished with their education, means everything. Culturally, women are associated with some things and not with others. So, for example, let me tell you what we're not associated with. We're not associated as breadwinners. We're not associated as household, head of household. So they think that we are going to be associated with either our parents or a boyfriend or later a husband. Therefore, our salaries don't have to be strong. They don't have to be the main salary. So these are all concepts in culture. Like there's no book that tells you do that, but people do that. Managers do that. So right now I have students in 10 years, they will be the managers, they will be hiring people. And I said, remember the words right now. You have no right to ask a woman if she's engaged or if she's to be married or if she plans to have children. All those questions are illegal right now in HR, but people still ask those questions. So let's say I say, oh, I'm engaged, I'm going to get married, I want to have 3 kids. What happens to that first employer with me? He says, oh, I can't take this person seriously because she's going to become a mamacita, 3 kids. So why would I pay her? Why would I train her? Why would I consider her to be my top manager? So these misconceptions, right? And then you turn that and say, well, men need more money because they are the breadwinner. And I wish somebody would never, ever use those terms again. Or he's the head of household. More and more women are the head of household, not just raising children, but taking care of their elderly parents. All those people need to eat. You need to pay the mortgage. You need gas. So it is a misconception that starts on that first job. The pay gap in our country is huge, like I said. So I had a guest from the State Department. They come and often talk to me, and this woman was from Thailand. And she was preoccupied. She said, the best nation in the world doesn't have equal pay. And she says, in my country, we have a table that says teacher, 3 years experience, this degree, this pay. There's no row, there's no column that says, what is your sexuality? It's not important. And I said, well, not even in the federal government do we have that. Because in the federal government, we have tables, but we have a range. So this is what I tell my students. You research that salary, and let's say it's 55, what they usually give you, right? You're going to say what? And they say, oh, maybe 49. And I said, no, you go for 55 or you go for 57. And then they say, well, I'm sorry, but I can only offer you 55. And then you're already on the top level, not on the bottom level. So these are all things that nobody teaches us. Nobody tells us how to present ourselves. And it makes me crazy because I'm right now feeling crazy because I know they have the same degree and they might be even more equipped for whatever internship they have done in the past, but don't have that choice. So it is a serious problem. It's attached to the ERA. Therefore, I doubt it that it will pass.
Steve Hall had his hand up. Steve?
Yeah, do you think that men and women should have equal time off from their work after the birth of a child?
I do, because I think parenting is parenting. And I think we have ignored men so long in their ability to love their child, to understand their child. And as you know, the first months of bonding are crucial. baby's so delicate at the same time. Yes, of course, a man can be extremely loving and sometimes even more loving than a woman when it comes to a baby. A woman might be exhausted for many other reasons and can't handle. I mean, I can tell you my story. I had to switch my classes to nighttime because I wanted to be with the babies in the morning because the babies in the mornings are beautiful. They're like, "Mm." And I had no patience in the world left for bath and story time and one more milk. So my spouse at the time, he took the night shift, and I mean he took the feedings and all that for dinner. And when I came home at 10 p.m., then I could wake up at 2, and it worked really well. He was phenomenal when it came to the babies. I mean, he read War and Peace for one of our children because he was so patient. He just sat there like reading and reading. And I said, "What are you doing?" We broke 2 rocking chairs, just so you have an idea. So I
Wow.
take my hat off to him. He was absolutely wonderful.
Just to follow up very quickly, I think there's a difference between the way men and women are treated in the United States versus the way they're treated in Europe. I think in Europe, I think they do get the time off. And I'm not sure how well you've studied that. I imagine you
Oh,
have. So you might
don't get me started. Don't get me started. Around the world, do you know that women can have up to 6 months of paid salary of any level in their jobs to be with their newborn, even if it's number 4? It's because, first of all, women's bodies goes through a trauma. And second of all, you need to adapt that body once again to be able to work and function and focus. And third of all, the baby needs to be in a routine before you actually leave the house. And the baby, you need to understand the baby's needs, how the system, his organs work. And you can't just leave a baby like it's a plant. So around the world, women take governments take a delivery, pregnancy very natural. In this country, we take it as an abomination, as something very weird. Breastfeeding in public, taking men off to work because he wants to be with his baby or his wife. Why? No. Yeah, I do research that. It makes me crazy too.
There's one question in the chat, and then I'll entertain perhaps one more because we're running low on time. This is from Sierra, who asks, is there any media, books, documents, podcasts, etc., that you can recommend for us to learn more about women's history?
Oh, there's so much. You can start doing like TikToks on women's studies or feminism, and you can see that you have an array of participants: younger people, older people, Black people, white people, educated people, comedians. There's so many things that you can look at. There's small books on the history of the women's movement in the U.S., which is the one that we care most because that's where we live. But it's been very different around the world as well. So we have about 4 different waves of feminism. The second wave ended in 1990, and then the third wave started, and the fourth wave is currently where we are at, and that is all much more individualized. So for example, I love peace. So I could be an activist on peace, and I could be an activist on hunger. I could be an activist with the LGBTQ plus. So all those things are like fragmented to me. I'm not just like one single thing. And that is the challenge, because in the fragmentation, you lose some of the momentum in the movement.
True. Okay, Paula, I see your hand up. But before I say that, Marilyn London, did you have a question? Because I saw you earlier reacting. I wasn't sure if you had your hand up or what. I'm assuming not. So go ahead, Paula.
No, I'm just animated.
Yay. Okay, go ahead, Paula. This is the last question, folks, because it's
I so understand what you're saying. I worked in construction for many years, and invariably had the lower pay. Even after I got my journeyman's license, I was still getting paid less than a lot of the men that I was working with who did not have a journeyman's card, and that's just wrong. And so, it's and I'm at least as skilled as anybody out there. I know what I'm doing. And so I know what you're saying about equal pay and about that whole, you know, we're just not being, as women, we're not being treated as if we're important. And then they say just a housewife and just a mom, you know, just a stay-at-home mom. And I hear that minimizing thing. And I say, you give lip service to how important it is to raise strong, healthy, smart, capable children. But then you give the people who are actually doing that work short shrift.
True.
Yes,
Very true.
I agree with you. I agree with you. It's an honor to be with your family, but you also have to understand what happens after 20 years at home to that woman, because nobody's paying her a salary. There's no social security for her. She's not in the workforce.
Yeah.
So it's a huge sacrifice that you might not think about it when you're 25, but when you're 45 and a widow, you might say, oh, now what do I do?
Or 45 and dumped overboard for 220s.
The plot thickens.
Okay,
This
so,
happens.
I wish we could go on and on, because Dr. Santana, that was really powerful and really important for all of us to hear. Great subject matter, and your presentation was terrific. I hope you'll come back and speak with us again. That said, we have to go. It's a little bit past our time, and if you will join me now as we extinguish this chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. I'm going to ask, before I go any further, Dr. Santana, could you stay on the line for a little bit afterwards?
Yes.
Okay, in case there are a couple more questions. Okay. Our closing music is another familiar song, For All That Is Our Life, which was composed by Patrick Rickey and performed by Jess Huteman. My closing words are from Jane Fonda. Women are sewing bees. Women are book clubs. Women are quilters. They do things together, and they talk. We are facing collective crises here. So it makes sense to me that women understand that collective action is needed, and they're not frightened by the notion of the collective. Thank you all for coming. That was an incredible service. The presentation was powerful, and interesting. And as you heard, Dr. Santana is willing to stay here for a while and answer a few more questions. I apologize that I need to get off, but I also have a SAC meeting shortly. So to all of you, thank you so much for coming this morning. Blessed be.